Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a rustic weathered barn with some wildflowers, and I threw in some sunflowers there today at the end. Mark took this photo this morning and thought, yeah, let's add it.
Yeah.
Why not? I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat today, so if you've got questions during the painting, you can ask those and I'll try to answer. Let's get started. Alright, so I'm using a 9x12 inch canvas today. This is a Fredrix mixed media canvas board. It does not come this color. I have taken a very, very small amount of Quinacridone burnt orange and done a light wash over the entire canvas with it, just to kind of tone the canvas and give us a starting point. Really, you could use a yellow, any kind of like even a magenta or something like that would look nice. Just any kind of warm-ish undertone. Will work well for today's project. Let's go over colors. I've got carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, quinacridone, quinacridone burnt orange, quinacridone magenta, dioxazine purple, unbleached titanium, phthalo green yellow shade. That one is a fluid acrylic. The rest of these are all heavy body acrylics. This one is yellow oxide, cadmium yellow light, Indian Yellow Hue, Cadmium Orange, Unbleached Titanium, Titanium White, and Gloss Glazing Liquid. My Unbleached Titanium looks lighter, but there's a light on it. It's not that light. It's got some light shining on it. All right, so those are our colors. And like I said, if you don't have these exact colors, you don't have to, you can use other colors. It's not going to be a problem. But these are just the ones that I tend to like to use. If you don't have Quinacridone burnt orange, it is discontinued. But I'm going to continue to use it because I love it, and I have a few bottles, so I've got probably enough for another year's worth. So I'm just going to continue using it. And if you want to know how to mix a substitute, I just did a video on that. So it's on Instagram and TikTok and also YouTube. So there's short videos showing the different substitutes, basically burnt sienna and quinacridone magenta. So
right.
Spoiler alert.
And we'll be launching another channel soon, Art Preppers, where you just prep and you just buy bulk of everything colors. And store it long term in your shelter.
It's pretty much, I do that already.
Yeah.
Been doing that for okay, I need to there we go. All right. For the background, I'm going to use a 2-inch aspen, and then for the foliage and things, you're going to want some sort of a stippler for the background. So I've got a couple different sizes here. Oh, I wanted a 3/8 inch. Where's my 3-inch? There it is. 3/8 inch, 5/8 inch, 1/4 inch. I'm not sure which one I'll be using. And I've also got my blenders here, the 3/8 and 1/4 inch blenders. These are Velvet Touch from Princeton. The blue handles are Select Princeton, and these are Aspen, and these ones are 6100 series. So these are all Princeton brushes. And I've got the links down in the description where you can buy these. I've got a list at the Brush Guys, and also and they have like a discounted list where you get like a set for a discount of the basic brushes that I usually use, and also on blick.com. So there's 2 different links down there, and I've also got a link to Amazon that has some also. All right.
And on the Brush Guys, you got that code.
Yes, use a code that's down in the description for Angela Fine Art code for 5% off. Okay. Whew. I'm trying to get these done quickly so we can go, because I know this project's going to take us a while. I've also got 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch angle brushes and some small rounds here. So I'll mention the brushes as I use them. I don't want to go over every single one right now because we want to get going. I've let this dry completely. Whenever you're doing your background color, you need to make sure that you let it dry completely before you try to paint over it. Let's go ahead and kind of mark out generally where our stuff is going to be on here. So I decided to flip the barn because originally it was facing out, the face of it was facing off the canvas this way, so I flipped it so that it was facing in, just because I like having the subject matter facing in to the canvas. So thank you to Susie BalesOswalt BalesOswalt, I think is the name. She's the one that sent me this photo, so thank you to her. Her name's down in the description too. There's a little shout out to her in there. I want to make sure I got the name right, though. I think that's right, but I haven't looked.
Susie BalesOswalt.
Oh, I did it right. That never happens. I'm terrible with names. Terrible. Even with people I've known for years, I'm terrible. Like, I can't even remember my own kids' names half the time. Okay, so I wanted to fill up this third of the can. It's about a third size as far as like size wise. I'm just going to kind of move it off center just a little bit so that it's like about just past the halfway mark here and a little bit down from the top of the canvas, and I want it right up at against the edge, so maybe about an inch or so down, and then angling this way off that way to about where this tree is coming out. So there's kind of a tree there, and we're going to stop it right in here somewhere. The angle is maybe not that steep, somewhere in here. Now, if you want to do a vanishing point, that would be helpful. You can, it's going to be off there that way somewhere a ways. But I'm just going to kind of try to guesstimate, try to keep all of these kind of going in the same direction, generally, like that. Kind of, they're not parallels, what I'm saying. They're going to be going to a vanishing point off this way somewhere. So something like that. Kind of just try to imagine where these three would meet up somewhere off the side here. It'll be kind of on our horizon line, which will be down in here somewhere. So the vanishing point's going to be way out here like this somewhere. You get the point. Ha! Didn't mean to make a pun, but I did there.
Oh, it's
all
on.
Right. What?
Oh, it's on
I've
now.
been hanging around you too long. Just making them without even trying.
See, it's easy.
Mark even watches this pun thing on TikTok. Mark and I both I've resisted TikTok all the way through the pandemic, and then when I hired somebody to help me with TikTok, because I didn't have time to mess with it, hired Ben to help me with getting some TikTok videos, shorter videos going, and checked it out, and it's super addictive. I don't know. I can see the appeal. Mm-hmm. So Mark is especially addicted, and he's like,
did you hear the rumor about butter?
No.
Well, I'm not going to spread it.
Oh, God. See, that's what I've been dealing with right there. Okay, so I am trying to, these are going to be basically parallel here. So these lines are going to be kind of parallel. This one is down from the corner of this. My chalk lines are kind of getting all mixed up here. But somewhere in here like this, so it's going to come out and then do kind of basically like a zigzag line here and here. Does that make sense? I don't know. There's another little line here that's going to be underneath. That's kind of the under part of the barn that's showing. And then this line here is going to be angled out in this direction.
That's fine.
Okay. And then this side is going to be dark, and it's going to have the sunflowers in front of it. So I'm not going to worry too much about this side of it, and just kind of know that it's down here. And all of this is going to be dark. So we're going to have a little bit of a... And the horizon line is almost right halfway across the canvas there. So I think that's going to do for us. I actually might make it a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, because so it kind of extends out a little bit longer there. All right, so something like that. Then our sunflowers are going to be in here. So we're going to have three big ones, and then kind of one that's sort of dead coming off here. Tree, and then lots of wildflowers down here. Okay, so that'll give us a starting place for our painting. I'm going to grab a 12, I think. I'm not going to use the 2 after all. 2-inch, I mean. All right, so I'm going to grab a little bit of white and some ultramarine blue and do my sky with a little bit of burnt umber. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of burnt umber going over this quinacridone burnt orange and ultramarine blue make a really lovely kind of violet color. So I know kind of generally what it's going to do. It's going to turn my sky a little bit more purple, which is fine. I don't have my phthalo blue out, which I could have added. I just didn't. So I can grab just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of green here. Or I could add yellow, but I'm just going to add a little bit of that to warm up my sky color just slightly. So it's not so cool. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to leave the little bit of that orangey showing through. I just kind of wanted that orange tone. I really like the orange with the blue. There's a lot of blues with this, with the cornflowers and things. And that yellow will look good with it as well. So that's why I chose this undertone, is that orange, because there's kind of a lot of blue running through the painting, and then there's a lot of the orange in the barn itself. So there's really no rhyme or reason to, I mean, but there is a little bit, I should say, there isn't, but I wouldn't get hung up on exactly what color to use on your undercolor. Just use what feels right to you. It's not, there's not a lot of artists will just paint it on and cover the entire undercolor. Just having an undercolor of any kind is going to help you with your values and things as you paint, because it'll help you see how dark your darks are and light your lights are, light colors are. So it helps you with the values, getting them right. If you start with white, you're starting kind of, everything is going to look dark against white. So if you start with this color that's kind of a mid-tone, then when you add, a lighter color, you can tell if it is light enough or needs to go lighter, if that makes sense. It's not going to look super dark like it would on a white canvas. Hope that made sense. I get questions all the time about undercolors, so just thought I'd kind of throw that in there. All right, so there we go. I always kind of just do a general sketch, and then as I'm painting, I kind of try to, kind of fix my drawing a little bit. It's one of the reasons why I don't do watercolors, because you have to have a really good drawing before you start, and I just like to jump in there, and I don't really like to draw really careful outlines of my painting. Just like to kind of jump in and do the thing and figure it out as I go. So changing up the shape a little bit, making the line a little bit not quite as angled down there. And you can see I'm just kind of adding a little bit of white here and there, just trying to kind of blend it in so that it looks kind of cloud-like maybe. There's not really like clouds in this painting that I'm seeing, so it's just kind of an overcast day, kind of similar to what we had today here. Mark and I got to spend the whole day outside just about. It was really nice. Really nice. It's been a while.
Yes, it was.
We had a really hot July. It was nice to be able to hang out outside. Okay. Mm-hmm. That looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and hang out with my honey.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a cafe in town for lunch together.
Yes, yeah.
He's been working from home on Tuesdays so he can be home. Doesn't have to rush home. He's got an hour-and-a-half commute to get home every day.
To my 9 to 5 job.
To work. And so sometimes it's cuts it close.
Yeah,
Trying to get home in time.
Yep.
There's been times he's barely made it home in time.
Angela is working on her work buddy etiquette.
I'm not very good. No, I'm always like, hey, check this out. What do you think? Should I add sunflowers to this? And he's like, Mark's very polite. He's very good about. He only slightly rolls his eyes at me when I interrupt him for the umpteenth time. I'm trying to get better at it. I'm not very good. All right, so I'm going to make some green here just to do for my trees. So I'm going to start out with my green, phthalo green yellow shade. I'm going to add a little bit of the ultramarine blue to it to make it a little bit more blue. And then I'm going to add burnt sienna. And this is going to make a nice dark green for me to start with. That looks really good. And I'm going to, at the end of this video, we are going to do a little demonstration of trees. So if you want to stick around for that, at the very end, we're going to do 4 different kinds of trees and how to do them. So
any shrubbery?
No shrubbery.
Okay.
No shrubbery. Okay, so I've grabbed my 3/8 inch deerfoot. That's what I'm going to use to do my trees here in the distance. And what I'm wanting to do is, you could see that I kind of got a little bit of that sky color on there. So the trick to doing trees that you want to look like they're distant and far away is to add your sky color to them. So it doesn't matter what sky color you're using, just add a little bit of that to your green and whatever color you're going to do for your trees. And a lot of times those distant trees will be a little bit on the blue side too, just because that distant, it's just a cooler color. A lot of times they pick up the atmospheric color, and they'll be a little bit blue. So that's why I added a little bit of that ultramarine blue and a little bit of that sky color to this green. And I want to keep it a fairly soft color too. I don't want it to be super bright. So that's actually probably too bright. Looking at it, I think it's a little too saturated too. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more of my burnt sienna to this. Maybe add a little bit of white. That'll help neutralize the color too. And then add a little bit more of my blue here. There we go. So that looks a little bit better. The trees back there. And I'm just going to keep these kind of soft and blendy looking. There's this one here is a little bit darker. It's maybe a little bit closer to us, or just a little bit taller, I guess. Really. So I'm going to get a little bit of the darker green, maybe a little bit of burnt umber. And in these dark areas here, go a little bit darker with it. And I'm kind of tapping and swirling around to kind of get a little bit of motion. Not emotion, but motion. You want happy trees, right? Little Bob. Yes. All right. Let's get a little bit of my yellow oxide, I think, with a little bit of my green there. That I'm just going to use that to do a few little highlights on here. Might go a little bit lighter. A little bit yellow oxide, a little bit of white, a little bit of green. That yellow will make it look like there's parts of it that are a little bit more in the sunlight. Okay. Looks pretty good. And then I'm going to use a little bit of this yellow with my blue from the sky color and just add it to these trees back here. And then continue that kind of color here. So this got a little bit of the blue sky color, but these will be kind of soft and a little bit more blendy. And if I get too much of the green, I can add a little bit more of just that sky color and kind of soften up around the edges and soften them up. So I might go over some of these a little bit and just make them look a little bit more distant by adding more of the sky color over the top of the edges there. Yeah, that looks good. I'll fix that. All right, so I'm going to use more of this kind of soft color here. And then as I get down here, I didn't do the blue down here, but I'm going to grab some of it, add that darker green that we used over here, and use that over here. And just do a kind of a line of trees that goes kind of across. Bring some of them up a little bit. So these are kind of distant, and then this line here is kind of the closer line of trees. A little bit more burnt umber. And then down in here is really dark right by the barn. On both sides, we want this area to be nice and dark. And the greater contrast in these colors, see how this one is very similar to the background in value. You know, if you looked at your value scale, you would have, you know, these are kind of in this range here. In these foreground trees, we're wanting to be much darker, and that'll pull them forward. And then we'll have some highlights on them that are in this range here. So the trees in the foreground are going to have more variation in the value. Darker darks and lighter lights as you get closer. To where we're at here in the foreground. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Get some more yellow oxide and we'll get a little bit more of that green, a little bit of white. Let me add this color to my bushes here and just kind of create some highlight shapes. So think about where the light is hitting them and create some little areas here and leave a little bit of the dark in between. So I've got this here, so I'm not going to go right up next to it. I'm going to leave a little space and maybe go in a little bit and do a little bit right here. See that? You can look at photographs too to kind of get an idea of where to put your highlights, but we're just kind of making it up here. I don't have a great, it's, you know, it's a little bit blurry in my picture, so I don't have a lot of foreground detail in my picture to look at, so I'm just going to kind of make it up and hope for the best here. All right, so that looks pretty good. I do see a couple of tree branches, so I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of that sky blue color. So kind of a dark-ish color, but not too dark. And go ahead and put a couple of tree branches in here on these trees that are in the distance. Okay. And then I think what I'll do is go back over that with one more layer. And I think I'm going to use a smaller brush so we can have a little bit more control. So I'm going to grab my 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch Deerfoot and get some of that green and get some of that sky color and go back over this. Kind of settle those branches in. I think I want a little bit more blue, a little bit more bright. Maybe a little bit of yellow added. Going for just a little bit brighter color, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of that blue there on the sky again. There you go. Just a little bit of that blue goes a long way. You don't want your trees to look blue, obviously, but this will just help them kind of look like they're farther away. A little fuzzy. Getting a little bit darker, so we want kind of a mid-tone green here. And go ahead and do a little bit of that too. There we go. Right, and then one last thing I'm going to do is use this sky color. Got just a little bit left over here. And come in and kind of fuzz out parts of these trees here to go over this just a little bit. The thing that makes them look kind of blurry and things is that they're kind of soft around the edges, so I'm just going to kind of use this color to kind of smush back that color a little bit and kind of fade it out. So I'm going to put a little teeny tiny bit of color. You don't want a lot of color on this because this will cover up what we did completely. We don't want to cover them up completely, but we do want to kind of push them back a little bit along the edges and just some inside as well. Some of the little bits of light peeking through some of the trees. That looks good. Let me get a little bit more of that green and go back over. So don't want to spend too much time on these trees because they're back here, but this will kind of help that illusion of distance. Kind of give it a little bit of attention. Okay, I don't love that color there. It's a little bit too blue. Gonna go a little bit more neutral with it. A little bit more yellow in there, a little bit of burnt umber. Sorry. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, let's leave that. You good?
Yes, I'm great.
You're great? Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to grab the rest of this green here. Add a little bit more burnt umber to it. Before it dries, just go ahead and fill in the rest of this. Oh, yeah, you can see little flaky clumps there.
Flaky
That's
clumps.
Okay. That's okay. Not going to matter.
I think that's my rock name.
What?
I think that's my rock band name.
Flaky clumps?
Yep. was leaving it hanging.
I was trying to think of the band name that we had decided a while back, and I think we had decided on Bossy Pants.
Well, that's your name.
But
that's just your.
But then that's what Tina Fey named her book. So then she wrote it. So
what? She stole your idea?
She did.
She
probably had it before me. That's probably how I got it.
Infringement or something. She can afford it.
All right, I'm going to get some. So I just kind of washed over that with that. And I really should be adding the glaze to these washes because you really want to have a little bit of glaze in there when you're washing. And I'm going to get a little bit of those two colors, the green and the yellow oxide. And I'm just going to kind of flip over this back area with that a little bit. And just kind of try to blend out that edge just a little bit. We're going to have lots of other layers on here, but this will just, and that orangey undertone really did nicely because it gave it a nice, it's got an interesting glow underneath there. If you look at fields and things, especially like flower fields and things, there is a lot of brown in them. A lot of times those things are dying, and there's dirt sometimes showing through, and just different things. There's a lot of browns in grass, more than you would realize. All right, so that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my 8 Bright, and we'll start filling in our barn here. And I'm just gonna get my burnt umber, a little bit of black, and I think I'm gonna use a tiny bit of purple too, just to give it a kind of a more interesting undertone. And kind of where the grass meets, I want to kind of feather that out. That'll help when we do the grass to not have a straight line there. So I'm just going to kind of do a soft line there against the grass. Just going back and forth and kind of blending into that. This is still a little bit wet even, so it's working pretty nicely. And I do want this to be fairly straight, so I'm going to bring this down just a little bit over here. There we go. And so this area is really dark in this first part of the barn. And there is, it looks like part of the barn missing, maybe an older barn, or maybe it's open for a reason. I'm not really sure, but there was like kind of just a pole or like a post that went across, and like a little open sky visible through it right here, and then some stuff hanging down from it. But I'm just going to go ahead and make it like it's solid because I can. And again, we're going to be painting the sunflowers over this area, so I'm not going to really need that to be super detailed in there anyways. And I think it actually comes out a little bit farther right here with another side building or something, but I'm not sure. It may not be that tall. Somewhere in there. Right, and then let's go and do this part. I'm going to try to get it straight. And then right here on my roof line, and this roof line is really angled. It's actually angled more than this one. Probably flatter angle to it. Getting some purple, going really dark right under here. I'm just kind of pulling across with it. Okay, that looks good. Gonna get some more of my black. Burnt umber. Go ahead and go across here. this line will be straight. This line. This line. Any of the horizontal or the vertical lines, I mean, should be parallel to the edge of the canvas. Straight. And let's go ahead and go down across where we're going to do this dark area here. And I'm going to go a little bit lighter on the part that maybe the burnt sienna with some burnt umber here on the part that is in the sunlight that's catching the light. Okay. Is Susie watching tonight? I'd be curious to know where this was taken.
I'm not sure. Okay. I'm going to guess outside.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's make a good guess.
It could have been like a museum or something, but I don't think so.
Increase that angle right there. Bring this out a little bit more. Right there. I don't know why I'm whispering. When I'm concentrating, I will start to whisper. Can always tell the videos that we did before we got our new sound system where Mark can make my whispery parts a little bit louder, because I'll be like, I can't hear you in the comments.
Yep.
I'm like, it's better now, I promise.
Yep.
Not because I've stopped doing it, but because my husband has been able to find a way around it.
Well, we've been able to purchase some very nice equipment thanks to our patrons.
Yes, for sure. It's been night and day since we started our Patreon. We've been able to upgrade our cameras and microphones and everything. So yes, we thank
lights
you to our
and
patron.
soundboard and
yes, everything.
Computer and
a lot. Yes, yeah, everything.
Internet.
Much.
We don't drop or freeze up during the shows anymore.
We had to replace we were having problems with our modem and router last month, and so we ended up having to replace those with. That was a good chunk of change, because have to get the really high-powered ones, but they don't last very long because they
run.
Yeah, they run all the time.
Because when we're not streaming, we're downloading pictures and doing research, and
or we're streaming on the TV too. Everything is using the internet anymore. Okay, so. This, and there's a little bit of a roof here. I may have to switch to a different brush. I apologize if these angles are a little bit off. I'm not the best with buildings. I try, but
it's an old bar.
I'm not.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not.
Someone said in chat that when they're painting barns, sometimes they'll turn them into old falling down barns because they can't get the. There you go.
I like it. Yeah, that's true. Don't worry too much about it, because they're gonna kind of have their own angles after time. Well, the only reason I say that is because I get mean comments sometimes. I had somebody that I painted a barn once, and they had to go off on how these teachers on YouTube and how they, they don't know what they're doing and yada yada.
Okay, yes, okay.
I never said I was an expert. I'm just showing you what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
You can...
We're just doing our thing.
Or move along if you don't like the video and find somebody else to bother. I always wonder it. People like that. It's like, and you thought I needed to know that? Why?
Somebody.
Thank you for the engagement. I guess it helps the algorithm. You just gave me more.
Yeah, somebody famous once said something about worrying about the stick in your neighbor's eye when you get a plank in your own eye.
Yeah.
Just saying.
True dat. Mm-hmm. Yep, so I'm going to kind of go back in here and really darken up these little areas here and try to kind of shore up my angles as best I can. There we go. And then bring that down just a little bit more right there. And I'm going to bring this one up just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, so that's about right. So right about where the corner is should drop down, and that should be about where this one will start once you kind of do this little section there. That looks pretty good. And I think we bring this down just a little bit on this side, a bit longer. Okay. We are almost there. Looks good. And honestly, we're not doing a whole lot more to this. So once this dries, we'll be able to do it. But I'm going to go ahead and stick with this brush and just kind of do my grasses in here. So we've already got kind of our dark-ish background, not super dark, but close. I'm going to get this light phthalo green and phthalo and yellow oxide here together, and I'm going to add just a little bit of the unbleached titanium to it. And I'm just going to use this brush and just flick it up and just kind of add kind of grasses back here. They're kind of lighter up against the barn here, and kind of, yeah, that looks pretty good, I think. I don't want the grasses to be too identifiable yet because they're far away, so I don't have to, they're not going to have a lot of detail when they're this far away, so don't go in and, do individual blades of grass or anything like that at this point. Just kind of solid-ish blobs of color is fine. That's all we need for this back area. But I am kind of flicking it up just to kind of soften the edge against the barn. I'm going to go a little bit darker back here, get a little bit more of this brown color, and bring this down a little bit. Didn't bring it down quite enough. I want to do that over here too. Just kind of a nice dark area, parallel kind of to the horizon line. Right there, and then I'm going to get some more of that lighter color and kind of go back up over it. And again, we're going to have our sunflowers in this area. Something about sunflowers and barns just screams summer, doesn't it? Sunflowers and barns, at least in Arkansas. It is quintessential summer. We've got, like I said, this photo of the sunflowers is actually from our garden. So I didn't do too bad photoshopping it this time. I tried to take my time with it a little bit more than I normally do. Tried to get it a little bit more looking good.
I won't mention the trees above the barn, though.
What do you mean?
In the picture.
Oh, yeah, it's bad over here. Yeah. I know. Yeah. No. Don't look over there. Just don't worry about it.
We found a job that we would be good at when we were looking the other day on the bad Photoshop pictures.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, I know. I was laughing at the bad photoshopped pictures, and I'm like, I have some contenders
Actually,
that could make this list. I totally have some that could totally make that list.
That could have been mine.
Yeah, that could have totally been mine. Totally. I'm not. I can Photoshop. I just don't enjoy Photoshopping, so I'm lazy at it. I'm glazing over. You notice now that I've just got I got glaze, and I got this dark green that I used down here, and I used it up in my tree a little bit, and I'm just kind of glazing over what I've already done. I'm not trying to cover it up completely, just trying to kind of add a little bit of depth to some areas in here, and I can add, like, use the corner of it and use a little bit more color if I want a little bit more solid leaves up against the horizon line or any places here. But this will just kind of unify this whole back area here and kind of make it all look like it fits together. And this also will kind of help fill in any gaps between my barn and the greenery, that if I missed any sections. So just doing that. Looks good. Okay, so I'm going to use some of this color a little bit more solidly. So a little bit of phthalo green and the burnt umber in black to make a really, really dark green. And I'm going to a little bit more of the phthalo green yellow shade. And I'm going to just kind of use the brush horizontal here and start to lay in some grasses that are going to be foreground grasses. This is not looking great, so I'm going to just blend that out a little bit and get a smaller brush. So it is a little bit too thick. So, but I do want this area to be a little bit darker, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of work with it. I do want some dark areas in here. In general rule of thumb, you're going to want to work back to front and dark to light and kind of soft edges, soft blended edges to hard edges that are more solid and visible. So here we've done our soft edges around our trees. And we've got our barn, we went kind of hard edged a little bit more than in the photo. It's a little bit more blurry, so I'll probably soften those edges a little bit. But then once we get to our sunflower, we're going to use nice hard edges. That's going to be our foreground, so we want it to stand out and be in front here. And so I'm adding a little bit of darker tones to this foreground. It's probably a little bit darker than we want it to be, but it will be covering it with lighter tones later, so maybe going a little bit dark on it, but we'll adjust later and add my lighter tones on top. The main thing is you just kind of want a soft transition between this light color that we did in the background here. So I'm going to get a little bit more of that lighter tone there that had the green and the cadmium yellow, or the yellow oxide, phthalo green, and a little bit of the unbleached titanium in it. And I'm going to go back in now with some of that. And just make sure I've got some nice thin brush strokes. I don't want to go over my barn yet, but I will be doing that eventually. So I'm just kind of doing a transition between this dark green and the lighter green and making sure that I've got a nice kind of soft blended transition and just pulling some of the dark up into the lighter first and then pulling the lighter color down into the there, and that's going to create that soft kind of blend, and then we won't be able to really tell where, you know, that there's a line there. We don't want to have like a straight line across there necessarily. Just want it to be kind of a little bit lighter back there. Okay, so just continuing to kind of add a little bit of the lighter green grasses here and there over the top of my darker green. This is doing a little bit better job for me. I think I just had a little too much paint in my brush earlier. So press the brush flat. You should be able to get a nice straight line out of your flat or bright brushes, and you can get these kind of nice grasses here really fast, going really quickly this way, much faster than if you were using like a liner brush or something like that, because that would have to be refilled, because this can hold a lot of paint, so you can do a lot of grass with this without having to reload every time you do blade. All right, that looks pretty good. Already getting a feel for that distance and the feeling of the barn. So let's go ahead and kind of soften up these edges of my barn. And by soften up, I'm just going to kind of mess them up a little bit. That's all. I'm going to get my blender brush here. This is the 3/8" Willow's blender, or just blender now. I keep calling it that, but it's changed its name. And I'm just going to go along that edge and scuff it up a little bit. So I want really clean and careful with it. But if I want it to look kind of distant and blended, or a little bit, what's the word? Out of focus?
Okay.
Not bokeh, but yeah, out of focus, then I can do this. So I'm getting a little bit of that color that I was using and just kind of going back over this a little bit.
Oh, like when I don't have my glasses on?
Yes, exactly.
Blurry?
Blurring it out. Just a little bit. And we don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can make it kind of more crisp, but that's up to you. I'm just going to kind of maybe get a little glaze. That'll help. I need to spray these because they're getting sticky. And this brush may not be the best for doing this, but it's doing all right. So there we go. This side I kind of did do a little more blurry. I kind of remembered to do that. I'm literally just kind of going over the edge and adding the lightest dusting of kind of a messed up line a little bit. Okay, that looks better. Let's get some of the Quinacridone burnt orange and some, I got some burnt sienna too, and then I'm going to get some of the Unbleached Titanium. I'm going to get a little bit of burnt umber too, just to darken it up just a little bit more. Okay, so there we go. So that's kind of the rusty red color that we're looking for. I'm just going to kind of start pulling it down, add in my highlights. And this brush is the one I'm using just because it's already got some texture to it. But I think I might switch to my Aspen flat. This is a 4 flat. It's also got a texture, and it will, being that it's straight edged, it will hopefully give me a little bit easier time of these angles along the edge of the barn there. I don't want to go over too much. So I'm going to kind of set it down and pull it diagonally. I want to pull these lines in the direction that the barn, the edge of this line here. I can go across. And then pull up from there. And if at any point you kind of do something you don't like, you can always fix it. You can go back over it. It's not set in stone. Getting some yellow. I want a little bit of warmer tone. That quinacridone goes kind of pink when you add white to it, so I'm adding a little bit of yellow to counteract that. It's so sad that quinacridone has been discontinued and you don't even know.
Well, it's just a good thing you're not a sculptor.
Sad day. What?
It's a good thing you're not a sculptor.
Why?
Because then you couldn't say, well, it's not set in stone. Because, no, literally it is. Yeah.
Did I just say it's not set in stone?
Yeah, you said, if there's any area that you don't like, you can always go back over it because it's not set in stone.
Well, yeah. There's a reason why I don't do sculpture and pottery. Watercolor. There's a whole list of art things that I've tried that I did not like. Acrylics are much more forgiving than other art mediums. Pottery, you can do a whole that show that I like to watch, that Great Pottery Showdown. You can do a whole just beautiful thing and just all kinds of intricate detail with it and just smash it and then take it, then fire it and it'll just blow into pieces in the kiln. And you're like, really? All that work. It's like the glass blowing competition too. They'll drop it or they'll have, the glass explode or break and they're just like, oh well. I'm like, nope, that would not be me. That would not be me at all. I would just be like, F this, I'm leaving. And that would only, like.
And that stands for forget.
Forget this.
Forget this.
Forget this, I'm leaving. Not doing that. If I'm going to put that much work into something, it's gonna last a few years. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I used to get so upset with our church when I would do Vacation Bible School backdrops, and then they would toss them. Yeah. They'd spend days working on it, and then they'd just finish it and toss it.
Throw them in the dumpster.
It's just a little bit of my heart goes with them. Yeah. I'm a little bit less sentimental about my art now, but not much. It's still a personal thing. Put so much effort into it. All right, I'm gonna just keep kind of lightly dry brushing. That's all I'm doing here. Kind of adding little bits of layers. I'm gonna get a little bit of burnt umber, put that back in parts. I just want to kind of look weathered and streaked. That's it. Very light touch, not a lot of paint on my brush. That's the key with this. And using a stiff bristle brush helps tremendously. So I'm going to go all the way up here, even though I'm going to have a shadow in here. I think I'm going to go all the way up here, and then I'm going to glaze over that shadow area, and that'll just make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to do that up here too. So it's just going up a little bit higher than what I have now. Okay, good. Dog wants out. Getting a little bit of ultramarine blue, burnt to umber, and white. I could use unbleached titanium too, it doesn't really matter. I still had a little bit of this other color on here, and I'm just going to do the boards that are this way. So these ones are going to be just slightly angled this way. Go almost to the edge here, that there's a little bit of overlap right here. And these are small boards, so I'm not doing them small enough, but I'm gonna go back in with the dark. I'll just go and do them sideways here, I guess. And then there's a big, looks like a barn door right here. Go ahead and kind of mark that out a little bit. And I'm doing details that aren't really there. So if you're like, that doesn't look that, I'm just going to put some stuff in and I'm going to darken this back up. But I want just a little bit of detail back here. And kind of mark out the corner of the building here a little bit. Using the brush on its side here will help me get thinner looking boards. Okay, so let me get my burnt umber now and a little bit of black. I'm going to get my glaze. I'm going to use a little bit of the blue. I'm going to use it right over the top of this, my glaze. Let your streaks dry first before you do this, so make sure that all those streaks that we just did are dry. I'm just going to kind of come in here and mark out my boards a little bit. So everywhere that I do this is going to kind of cover up a little bit of that lighter color that I've been on here and make it look like boards. And then I'm going to kind of shadow right along here a little bit. And then right in here, I need to really define this a little bit better. So go a little bit darker right there. Around the barn. Darken that up so it's not so visible. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think those doors are a little bit higher than I made them. I think they go up a little higher. How's it going in chat?
It's going good.
Good. Okay. No questions tonight?
No questions, no. Everybody's
Nice.
just kind of socializing, hanging out.
Good deal.
All the unusual suspects.
Yay. Oops, got a little green there.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing, but we're having fun over here.
Okay. I always seem to miss out.
Well, I offered to switch with you, but you don't want to do that, so It's your own fault.
It's true. Yeah, so that roof line goes almost to the top of that, so I need to bring that barn door up a little bit higher. That's a lot bigger than what I had. And it is kind of generally right underneath this little bell tower area, so I might move it over just a little bit this way too. Go. Again, not really planning this out much as just kind of figuring it out as I go along. And honestly, the sloppier, sometimes just a little bit more realistic looking in the long run, if you kind of don't go too careful with it. Plus, we're wanting this to look a little bit blurry anyways in the distance, so honestly can't really tell what's happening with these doors because the sunflower's going to be covering it, so just gonna go a little bit darker around it. All right, that looks pretty good, I think. So let's go ahead and put our shadows in along the roof line there, and I'm just going to use burnt umber and quinacridone burnt orange for that. Maybe a little bit of black. And my glaze. So we're just going to pull down our shadow over the top of that lighter area right there. This is the easiest way to get a really natural looking shadow. Paint your highlights in just as if there's no shadow all along that area, and then pull glaze over it to put the shadow in after the fact. It's much more natural. Plus then you get to see the texture and things that are in that barn. It'll match the area down here perfectly. Okay, that looks good. I can use that glaze to kind of add some shadows in the highlights if needed. But I'm pretty happy with that. And then I do want to make this area just slightly lighter. You can see in the picture it's a little bit lighter because there's more sunlight hitting it. I think it's flatter to the sun. So I'm just going to get a little bit more of my yellow and go just a couple shades, maybe one shade lighter than what I've already done. Pull up. Doesn't have to be the whole thing, but just in a few areas here. And I'm not going to go all the way to the shadow now that I have it in. I forgot to do this beforehand, so it's fine. That looks good. And then maybe just a little bit along the front edge of this, just a little couple places. Just those random boards sticking out. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to shadow this corner just a little bit more because it's a little bit bright. Let's go ahead and put our flowers in. Right. So I'm going to use this brush, I think, to put in some of the tall grasses. We'll see if we can get some thin grass stalks. I always just like to use the brushes I have already out rather than dirtying up another brush. So we'll just see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll switch brushes. But if it does, then we don't have to clean another brush. So win-win. All right, so I'm going to do some of these tall grasses here. Yeah, that's working just fine. Go all the way up there. this is the Cadmium Yellow Light and a little bit of white and yellow oxide. And I'm just tapping. This is doing a really nice job too. It's opening up the texture of that brush, is creating those kind of grass-like fibers that I'm seeing, the little grass seeds that are opening up along these seed pods. Nice, I like it. It's just tapping in a straight line randomly. Create these grasses. And this is where I was saying don't worry too much about this part of the barn, because most of this is going to get covered with grasses and different things. So if you don't like an area, or you kind of did something and you're like, I don't know if I like that, just cover it up. If you don't like it, cover it up. This is where my sunflower is going to be, but I do want some of these grasses back here. Just because the sunflower's there doesn't mean there's not grasses. So I'm going to go ahead and still do my grasses in this area. And because this is the same color as the grass back here, we don't even have to worry about where this ends. It's just going to go down into our grass and be absorbed by the colors that we've got going on down here. And we can do some down here too. Do some bigger ones. Press down a little bit harder to get bigger grass seeds. Okay, looks good. I like it. Of paint here. Get a little bit more of my green. I'm going to need more of that. How are we doing on time? Okay, 2.5 hours. No, or 2 hours and 15 minutes. Not too bad. All right. An hour, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Which time zone did you jump into?
No, I was just thinking I'm trying to get it done in 2 hours. Yeah. So
I know math isn't
or less than 2 hours.
One of your stronger suits, but
no, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm in art brain right now. I'm not responsible for what my brain.
What you say?
What I say when I'm in art brain. I'm in the flow. We were just talking about that today.
Oh yeah. What flow is it? The major flow.
Flow.
Just flow.
Mm-hmm. Flow state.
Flow state. Oh, that's right. Flow state.
Flow state. It changes your brain chemistry and it's good for you. It also helps you be creative and it removes distractions. I'm going to get some of this. Let's get some Indian Yellow Hue. Why not? Unbleached Titanium, maybe a little bit of this burnt orange color. I'm trying to pick up some of that roof color, but it's already kind of dried. And I'm going to do some kind of dried grasses here with the... I didn't really want to go on that corner there too much, but that's all right. So just different colors of grasses. Some are a little bit more aged than others. Different kinds of grasses.
Why'd you look over here when you said that?
I just was wondering what you were going to say about that.
Okay, I understand. I look more aged than others in this room.
That is sadly not true. we had a time period, and I didn't want to ask the waitresses why they did this, but Mark and I had about a year or two where almost every time we went out to dinner with each other, they would ask if we were splitting the check.
Yeah. Is this the same check?
I'm like, seriously? You can see we have wedding rings on. What the deal? I don't even want to know if they thought I was too young for him or if he thought he was, slumming it with me. I don't know. But I didn't want to know. It was the weirdest. It gave me a complex. I was like, seriously, what is the deal? Oh my gosh. It happened more. If it was like one time, then I were like, okay, whatever. But no, it happened almost every time we went out for a while. It was very strange. Very strange. All right, just adding different colors here.
Or it's like, what kind of clientele do you usually get here?
Exactly. I don't know. Oh, Cashmere's announcing her presence there.
It's her old girl moan when she's getting up and moving. It's like, oh.
She announces her pain.
Yeah, I do it when I get up.
I do too. Oh no, I do. Okay, there's all kinds of different grasses here. There's some that have kind of like small little needle-like things. Oh, what was it we were watching the other day? Something, the planet something, I don't remember, but it was on PBS, I think, where the grasses fall and they move.
Oh, yeah.
They move depending on how the seeds fall off the grass, and they actually walk. They have these two legs, and they lay down, and depending on how the moisture,
the sun dries
them out, and they curl and they twist and move, and then when the sun when it rains, they open up and it moves them more, and it's like they're
the
constantly.
Dew in the morning will do it.
Yeah, the dew in the morning. Yeah, and so they'll end up like miles away. Yeah. By just walking.
The time lapse was kind of weird.
Oh my gosh, it was creepy looking.
It's kind of like me getting up. Kind of creepy looking. Like, oh.
I don't know about that. All right, just adding different grasses here, different colors. Just adding some more white into this one here, and using this blade. This is doing really good for the grass. It's can do these little bladed seed pods coming out of nowhere there. And then I'm going to do some daisies too. So I'm going to get my white here. And I haven't cleaned out my brush, so it's kind of creating this kind of dull off-white color, which will be perfect for my daisies because I don't want bright white for the ones that are in this distant area. Only bright white will be the ones that are like in full sunlight, really close up. The rest of these are going to be farther away, kind of behind things and tucked in, and we're not going to see a lot of detail, and really the only thing we're going to see is these kind of like lines almost. So just going to kind of do some random little white lines. It's amazing your brain fills in the gaps because these are literally just little white lines. But are you already seeing flowers? Because I am. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Just little lines. That's it.
Well, if you call this a flower.
She looks so happy.
This is what I'm seeing right now.
Cashmere.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's my computer where I'm trying to work. And there's that.
Did you not want to see the cat instead of... She's making you work, so I just thought I would, help you out there, Dad.
Thanks.
I'm going to help you not have to work. Yes. These ones that are in the foreground, I'm going to start to kind of do a little bit more shapes. So I don't know what I did here, but I think my sunflower is going to be here. So I'm going to cover that up because I don't really like that look of that. Get some green and some...
So while you're doing that real quick, we'll let everybody know the good news about patreon.com /Angela Fine Art.
Yes.
And the good news is, I'll let you say it because it's...
They are doing, they're billing different. We're on a beta testing thing, but it's going to be permanent for our channel. Not all channels on Patreon have it yet, or all. But we're going to be doing annual, or not annual, monthly billing by date. So whatever date you signed up is the date that you pay every month, instead of paying for the month you're in. Right before, it was no matter when you signed up in the month, you only got that current month, and then you had to re-up on the first of the month. Now you re-up. If you sign up on the 23rd now, you sign up, you get charged again on September 23rd. You don't get charged on September 1st.
So it's no longer a calendar month. It's just 30 days or whatever.
Yes, it makes it really
nice. Which is awesome. And that's for new subscribers. Correct.
Right, for new subscribers. Everybody else that was already a subscriber before this will just still keep their the first of the month billing. No, okay, so I'm going to put my sunflowers in here. I actually think I'm going to draw them out so that I kind of have an idea of where to put them. So that one's going to go there. This one's going to go down here. Kind of right on the line. This one is, I don't know. Normally I don't like to paint the sunflowers that are kind of past the prime, but I like that one for some reason. It's kind of nice looking. And then this one is facing this way. Alright, so that's where my stem's going to be. Got some leaves coming out. This one is, I don't know, coming out from here somewhere. Got some heart-shaped leaves here. I love how the sunflower, I'm glad we're getting to do a stem because I love how their leaves come out like little hearts that overlap all the way down the stem. I'm going to put one here. Alright, so something like that.
So what brush are you holding right now?
This is the 4 flat that I've been using.
In which?
Aspen.
In the Aspen, 4 flat Aspen. Thank you.
I'm just going to go ahead and do the stems out to all these. Just they're mostly covered, but I'm just making sure that I've got them. And looks good. Okay.
And so I'll continue while you're doing the flowers or leaves there. They were on the Patreon. There's different levels to those who are new to it. Right now there's a $2 level for traceables, $5 for traceable plus a bonus video that we did last weekend.
Yeah, I'll show that. Where is it?
And then the $10 level is all that plus.
It's a bonus video that we did for the $5 level.
Yeah. And $10 level, which is all that plus a weekly challenge image that one painting is painted through the month on Thursday.
Yeah,
so it's like
the challenge image here.
Extensive.
Yeah, we've been working on animals of South America.
It can be 6 to 10 hour long.
This is the animals of Asia that we did a couple of months ago. So it's filled up with flowers and stuff just like that one. But yes, those are worked on until we finish it. So we try to get it done within the month, but sometimes like that one, it takes a little bit longer. So that one's a 2-month project that we've been working on, trying to get.
And of course, you get access to
finished.
all the previous tutorials at those levels.
Yeah.
So it's not just this 1 month. It's
right
back to February 2017.
Yes.
And again, thank you to all the amazing supporters on Patreon.
Yes. Yeah. We do projects in there that I can't really do on YouTube. It's just the long projects that take several weeks to complete just don't work on YouTube. Yeah. So I've tried doing serials and things. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, like doing like one part tonight and then the second part next week. It just doesn't
the first
play
that
gets
well.
some good traction, but then the second ones are always
not great. Nope. So. All right, I'm going to call that good for the leaves. We'll let those dry. I'll add some shadowing to them. Let's go ahead and add the centers to my sunflowers. I'm going to get some burnt sienna here. Actually, let me go ahead and do the sunflowers themselves first and then add the centers. So I'm going to use my 1 round and get my cadmium yellow if it's still workable.
Oh, here comes our neighbor.
Yeah.
Oh, the thumping stopped. Darn it.
And neighbors do like noisy cars.
It's time to break out the breeze again.
Put them in their place.
Yep. I'll wake them up at 5 in the morning, leaving the neighborhood.
Dear little sissy car.
Yes, Spencer drove it, and he was like, "It is weird." You turn it on and it makes no noise.
Yeah, no, I turned it on multiple times. The first couple times I drove it, I'd get in it, turn it on, and then not hear it and turn it on again, which turned it off, which I had to turn it back on. I'm like, what the heck? Can't even tell. To really pay attention. Okay, so here we go. So I've got this yellow, I've added white to it so that it's more opaque. And I'm going to do this one that's kind of facing away from us. That's covering pretty nicely. I want to get this to cover pretty much solid if I can with one coat. And I'm going to have to do the center of these. Actually, I could probably leave it the color that's already there. That'll work. These ones are a little bit shorter. Just setting the brush down, letting it spread just a little bit, but making sure that I kind of have a decent point here. If I have a nice point to it, then it'll come to a point at the end of my petals there. Do the work for me. Okay, so I'm trying to imagine this rounded shape here that we're going to have. We'll go ahead and bring in the petals in farther than I think I need to. And then these ones are going to be on top, overlapping the middle part there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and do this one. This one will be, these two will be pretty easy because they're kind of just facing away or facing full-faced. Round in the center.
Yeah, the first couple sunflowers that opened up for us this year opened up facing the neighbors' yards.
It was like traders. I just really, that's not even the way the sun grows. Why do you not know your sunflowers? You're supposed to follow the sun. You're facing the north. What the heck?
Like, we can't get pictures because we can't get on the other side of the fence.
Exactly. They're being weird.
It's definitely not like that in the movies. That's all I'm saying. Everything's always perfect.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's our fun I like that they're kind of irregular shaped too. And then this one is going to be right here. Get these, my paint is getting little sticky parts in it, little clumps. Okay. I might just do the 3. I don't know.
Yeah, because another one's kind of dying off.
It'll be an odd number if I do the 4th one.
Mm-hmm.
I like the look of it though.
Odd as in art terms, where even numbers are odd.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me take off the chalk lines and see what I've got left here. This should be dryish. Nope, not fully. Come on. I'm wiping off my yellow paint there. Okay, so I need to leave that alone. Let that dry. But I can wipe this off. Yeah, that's still wet too. All right, so let's go ahead and do the centers of the flowers. I'm going to get the burnt orange and a little bit of burnt sienna. I mean burnt umber, I meant burnt orange and burnt umber. I'm going over these petals a little bit here, especially these ones that are here. These ones I'm going to paint over this section so that they're over the top of this center part. That looks good. Let's go ahead and get some more here. What are we on time? Okay. I'm trying. I told Mark I thought this was about a 2-hour video, and then we're trying to do the trees afterwards. It's going to add some time to it, so we're going to go a little bit later than we normally do on a Tuesday.
Which is legal this time of year because there is no Oak Island, so
Right.
you're cleared.
I'm cleared for takeoff.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think that works there. Just that. I'm going to have to paint out this part with some stuff. I don't know exactly what I'm seeing here, but I'm going to kind of guesstimate what that would look like there. And I might put, I was like, what is that? I put the green around that back sunflower. Ooh, it's coming off good. Put the green around that back sunflower thinking that it was going to be there, but it's not. So okay, that came off good. I might just do like a bud here, like maybe starting to. There, and maybe. Well, when they get up high here, they don't really have the leaves. The leaves all kind of come down.
Just green wrapped around it.
What?
It's just like all the green leaves are all wrapped around
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I have a picture of one.
Yeah, they come in. Come in like this.
Yeah. They come to like a little bit of a
Right.
point.
Okay. That'll work. Let's go ahead and add some highlights to these leaves coming down here. Getting some of that yellow. You have a kind of a yellow stem line. Comes off the stem, attaching them. These get pretty thick as they come down, so I'm gonna thicken up this stem here just a little bit. There we go. Add a little kind of quilting to the leaves. Just some highlights. I don't want to add a ton of details to these because it's got so much else going on here. I don't need a ton. That looks pretty good. Let me get some of the Indian yellow, or Indian yellow and a little bit of yellow oxide. Maybe a little bit of cadmium orange. And just use that kind of in the center of the sunflowers. Leaving the dark, a lot of the dark, but just kind of adding a few little highlight areas. This is what makes it, look at that, just that. Makes it look real. It's amazing. It's amazing. Just little dabs. That's all, don't overdo it. You don't need a lot. And a little bit along here. Just kind of along the top. There, I'm going to get a little bit more of that burnt umber, maybe a little bit of black even, like a dark area. Kind of add that back in here, add a little bit of dark dots. I don't really need much, but I want to make sure that I'm not seeing through my sunflower petals, because I painted those first, so I want to make sure that I have dark coverage all along over the top of the petals. There, okay, looks good. And it really covered pretty well, so I'm not going to have to do a whole lot of touch-up on this, but I'm going to get the cadmium yellow full strength and do some touch-ups, especially on this here. I want some of these petals coming in front of the that. And I want this one to show up, so I'm just going to make it a little bit more yellow or gold. Okay. Maybe add a little bit of this Indian yellow to where some of these go into the center. Maybe a little shadowing there. And again, I'm not going to do a whole lot to this. I'm going to add a little touch of yellow there where it may be peeking out. A little bit more of the bright yellow on a few of the outer ones if it needs it. If they look a little see-through. Yellow is one of the least opaque. It's also the lightest value color in your toolbox, so you're going to have to compensate sometimes for it by adding white. So white can help it make it a yellow more opaque. I'm going to use white along the tips of this one. I'm seeing a lot of white. This is probably my Lemon Queen. We had some babies that just seeded themselves from last year.
I planted those seeds over there.
Oh, you planted that one? Okay.
Yeah.
Was it the Lemon Queen?
Oh, I have no idea. It was just, we have that box of all those sunflower heads.
Right.
And so I just grabbed one.
So it was from the box. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it was from all the leftover heads from last year.
From last year, yeah. Okay. I thought you were saying you had the seed packet.
Oh, no. So I just grabbed and planted some in that
Right.
area.
So this is the Lemon Queen, I think.
Where the Morning Glory is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really pretty against the Morning Glory because it's the Morning Glory blue behind it. It's really a nice combo. Mm-hmm. We need to do more of them next year because there was only one in that particular area. Mm-hmm. That was a good idea, hun.
It was just a random thing. We had all those Morning Glories that self-seeded in the vegetable area.
Right.
So we just uprooted them all. Mm-hmm. And they were sitting in a
pot for a couple of days and they weren't dying.
For at least a week or two.
At least.
Yeah, and they were feeding off the rain that they were getting. And so we just built a little spot over by the shed. And
well, if you want to live that much, we'll let you live.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep you way away from the rest of the garden because you tried to take over the garden last year.
Now, that other stuff that's growing in there this year, holy moly.
Purslane. Oh, that was dumb.
Yeah,
I didn't know how invasive it was.
I think I'm just going to burn the garden down.
May have to. It's just taking over. Every little part of it just lives. Doesn't matter what part you can break off. It just it keeps on growing. All right, so I'm trying to see where I'm seeing these shadows on these. I'm not doing a very good job with these leaves here. Sorry, I'm talking and not paying attention to what I'm doing here. Okay, I need to do my center line there. Just trying to add a little bit more dimension here because there's some shadowing in these leaves too. So kind of in between the light areas. Doing a little bit of this dark. This one I didn't really love how it turned out. I might just add a little bit of highlight on top along the edge there. There we go. Okay. That is almost good enough just like it is, but I do want to do a few more flowers. So I'm going to get some of the pink magenta there, add some white to it, and do some, just a few. There's not very many. Just a few little pink flowers. Let's do an odd number of them. So there. Okay, go away, fly. He's okay. He just landed on my forehead. Really, dude. Okay. Get a little bit of ultramarine blue. I got the magenta there. Some white. And we'll use that to do some of these bachelor buttons, which will also self-seed and come back every year if you let them. Easy to grow out here in Arkansas, at least. Little bits of blue. Fun. You can do as much as little or as little as you want of these. What are you laughing at?
Oh, I was just wondering if, there is a possibility that we won't see the barn by the time we're done with all the flowers. Just, if you're new to the channel, just don't be surprised.
What? Okay. The fly just landed on my hand.
It is taunting you a second time. What are you going to do?
Spank me? Poor mom.
Do you want that quote on your gravestone?
It would be very, yeah. Be very politically incorrect to talk about spanking, but that I did say that to my mom at one point when I was about 4.
Okay. We'll make sure that's on your gravestone. It'd be very appropriate for them too. Go ahead, it's not gonna hurt. Doesn't hurt anyway.
Yeah. Guaranteed to get a much worse spanking. that's something that I'm glad has gone by the wayside. For the sake of our grandbabies.
Yeah.
Well, there's some people still do.
Now we just turn off Wi-Fi.
Okay. Seriously, he's sitting right there.
Oh, he's sitting right on here.
No, it's gone. Tried to. Okay, using darker blue here. Sorry, we're gonna stop talking about things that'll get us comments. Don't leave a comment about spanking, please. I really don't want to. We were just joking. I don't. It's not the place for the conversation. Try to keep it light. All right, this is starting to look good. I feel like this is a little out of place, so I probably need to put some flowers in front of it because it's kind of like, I don't know, looking photoshopped right now. You know, it just doesn't look like it's part of the scene too much. Get a little bit more yellow and add some highlights along the front edge there. Along the edges of the petals. So we'll just throw some grasses and things in front of that, maybe. I don't know if I want to do too much right now. I'm gonna just keep on going with the other stuff, and then when we get down to this bottom part, we'll add some. So I want to add some orangey flowers. So I'm going to get some orange and yellow here, a little bit of all three of these. And start adding my centers of my daisies and just find those flat areas that we did before and just add a little small dots to those areas. A few little flowers here. In the orange color. I'm going to do some more random white flowers here too. Get the white. What?
This fan on this computer is driving me crazy.
It is very loud. Now, thanks for pointing it out, 'cause now that's all I'm going to hear. I wasn't noticing it before, but now I do. Appreciate it. Okay, we really need to get the fly swatter. This fly is got a death wish. Very nuisance. Okay, looking good. I'm gonna do what happened? What happened?
Oh, I unplugged this and the audio started coming through the speaker on the computer. Didn't want feedback.
Okay. All right. Get that solid ultramarine and a little bit of purple. Do the point at the bottom of these where the stem attaches. A little bit dark dot. Right, and then I'm gonna go back to this bigger brush here, get some more of the magenta, do another little layer of the magenta petals, just a little different value, maybe use a little bit of lighter pink or something in here. There we go. These look like my little cosmos that we have. Looks good. Just put a few little dots randomly back there. A little bit of light yellow orange for these flowers here. And yellow in the centers of these sunflower daisies. And you can also might add some darker colors in with those. I'm gonna add a little bit of burnt orange, magenta to the centers of these orangey flowers. Not really seeing the centers of very many of them, just a couple of them there. And then let's go ahead and use this to create some grasses. So let me get some white. And some yellow. Those two, I started out with my phthalo green and cadmium yellow, or yellow oxide mixture. Or is that really flat? I think I'm going to use a different brush. I think I want I'm going to use a 3/8 inch angle. It's going to have a little bit more smooth line to it. Get some different grasses going here. Some of these need to have like a stem coming to them, so like finding those ones that are sticking up on their own, making sure I have a nice thin, very thin stem up there. But you kind of use this to just fill in some little grassy like things in here. Almost done. I don't know if we have time for the trees. We may have to do that next week. What are you feeling?
That's up to you. I'm not finished, so I don't know how your arm feels and your headspace, your flow state.
Yeah, I think well, I hate to not do it since I promised to do it earlier. You know, I think people will get to the end, look for it at the end of the video. I'll get some mean comments, I guarantee. Alright, getting a little bit of the magenta here, and I'm going to use that to do some detail in these grasses. Some of these that are sticking up, and then I'm going to do a couple of grasses that are just kind of above in front of this, like maybe like that. Maybe do I don't think I want darker green, actually. I think I want kind of a lighter green on top, but I'm trying to get a different tone that'll show up against the green of that yellow green that we've got going on there. I just added a few little grassy bits over the top of this sunflower just to help. I'm going to add some of this in other places here. A little bit more of a teal green. Maybe just add some little dots here and there. Meadows, I feel like more is better, you know. More is more when it comes to meadows, because it just, like, the more chaotic, the better in some ways, you know, because your eye doesn't have, like, one place to focus on. And if you kind of, like, step away and come back in and you come in and, like, you notice something right away, sometimes that's something that you may want to shake out, unless it's a part where you want people to notice right away, you know. And in that case, it's a good thing. But sometimes there's things that you might notice that you don't want to be like the focal point, and is, you know, then you can change it. So just noticed there was a bunch of yellow flowers up here, up high. What? How did I miss those? That actually helps balance this yellow up here too. It's a good place for them. All right. Anything else that I missed that I need to do? Okay. I got those two too close together. Do that real quick again. What is chat saying? Are they waiting for the trees? Because I'll do them if they are. I don't mind.
Let's see. Really not much on it.
Nobody.
One person said, please do the
Okay.
trees
We'll
if
do
you're
them.
able.
Okay, we'll do them real quick. All right, so there's the end of that. I'll let that dry. Okay, so I need to clear this off. Give me something to work.
Do you want to do super chat now or at the very
Sure,
end?
you can do that while we're
Okay.
doing this.
Let's see. Let me see that I can. Alrighty, let's see. Okay, do this. Do this. Are you ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead. I'll do it at the very end.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, no, I'm still putting out colors,
Okay,
so you
okay.
can do it real quick.
Right. Super chat. Oh, I didn't turn on the camera. I got the flashies, but no camera. I am such an amateur.
You're gonna run out of time.
Okay, so
Messing around.
all right, so the first super chat was from Cindy. She says, "Happy Barnes and summer."
Oh,
Thank you very
Thank you,
much,
Cindy.
Cindy. Appreciate that. Then the next one was from Carol, and she says, "Lots of old barns in New England.
oh.
We let our town fire department burn our old barn down for training purposes.
Wow, that's cool.
It was gone.
Wow.
Take care."
I hope you got good pictures
Mhm. Thank you, Carol.
where it went.
And then the last one is from Karen, and she says, "Thank you, Angela, for this
Aw.
incredible painting. Today is my mother's birthday. She passed 13 years ago, and her favorite flower was the sunflower."
Oh my goodness, Karen, that's amazing. I'm so glad we added it at the last minute today.
Mhm.
That was meant to be.
Good call.
That's great.
So thank you to Karen and to Carol and Cindy. That was awesome.
All right, here we go. So I've got some different colors here. I'm just going to kind of go over them different options. So I've got kind of a blue green and then more yellow greens here. I've got a sap green that's kind of a neutral dark-ish green. Oh my gosh, sorry. I need to get this off because I don't want to be working with this on my hands. We'll get it everywhere. Okay, so sap green, phthalo green blue shade, phthalo green yellow shade. This is yellow green, Australian yellow green. These are Matisse color. This one is burnt sienna, and this one is Australian sienna, which is like a Nicolazzo gold or like a Quinacridone Nicolazzo gold, Quinacridone Magenta, and white. So I'm going to start out with pine tree. We've all seen that. It's pretty easy. If you've watched Bob Ross, you kind of have an idea of what's going to happen here. But I'm using fluid acrylics because it'll go on a little bit faster for me. I'm going to use the fan brush. This one is a short fan, number 2. And going to grab the sap green, add a little bit of the phthalo green blue shade, and add a little bit of burnt sienna. Pine trees tend to be, I'm going to grab a little bit of black too because I feel like I might need a little bit of darker tone on some of these. Grab a little bit of black here. Okay, so I'm going to start out with that, kind of a dark. I like to start out with a dark color from my pine trees, and if you want to, you can go in and put a tree trunk down, but you really don't have to. You can kind of just tap, or use the edge of the brush to create your trunk. So there's our kind of tree trunk. And then I'm going to load up my brush so that it's got a fairly good amount of paint on there. The fluid paint will help come off this brush a little bit easier. And I'm just going to hold it at an angle almost flat to the canvas. So not like this, but kind of flat, and just tap side to side here. I'm going to, these first couple ones kind of come up. So I'm going to kind of start up, push up with it a little bit. See how that's doing? And then when we get about halfway, I'm going to start to just kind of create my branches out, almost straight out. And make sure that I'm getting this middle part in here, kind of starting to fill out. So, but leave kind of random spaces between the branches, and depending on the kind of branch, the pine tree that you're doing, you know, they kind of all have sort of different shapes. You can kind of pull down to get like little needle-like shapes. Some might be a little bit fuller through the middle. The ones that are coming at us are going to, obviously you've got a long arm like this that maybe, you know, is branched out, but if you're looking at it straight, you're only seeing kind of a line or kind of a flat area. So that'll come in with the highlights, but you really won't see it from the side like this. You're not going to see the ones that are coming straight at us unless the light is catching them. So I'm going to keep on going like this, and then as I come down, I can start to kind of pull down with some of these brush strokes and get kind of a, you know, a heaviness, a weight to the bottom of the tree. Pull down a little and have the branches kind of angle down. So angle up at the top, angle to the middle, kind of out, and then as they come down, kind of angle them down towards the ground a little bit. And then here in the middle, I'm just going to kind of angle them down. A lot of times you won't even see the bottom of the tree. If it's got like a lot of foliage close to the ground, you know, you can kind of hide it. Otherwise, they are pretty flat around. They don't get well, they kind of start out a little bit thicker and get a little bit narrower as they go up, just like any tree does. But they have a real kind of just a straight trunk. That's it. There's not a lot of branching going on, or any, with the pine tree. It's just the branches are are kind of straight off this. There's not a branch with another branch and a branch, you know, kind of thing. It's all happening straight from this middle trunk, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm explaining that right, but anyhow, you're getting the idea, hopefully, from my meandering brain here. Okay, so there we go. So we've got, I'm going a little bit more solid there at the bottom. And really, you can make this any kind of, you know, shape as you want. This is kind of like a Christmas tree shape, really, is what I've done here. And then I'm going to get, and there's a lot of browns in pine trees too, like a lot of this reddish browns. So I'm going to use that reddish brown for my highlights on it. So I'm going to get the burnt sienna, burnt sienna, and a little bit of more of this, I think I got a little bit of the Australian green gold there. And I'm just going to kind of think about where my middle branches would be. and add some highlights along there and maybe along one side, if there's some highlights happening in my tree. Snow obviously would be collecting on this as well in these same kind of areas where the light's hitting, and also along the edges of the trees. So I think that's good. So that gives you kind of an idea there. I'd probably do 2 or 3 layers on here, like a mid, medium, and highlight tone. So this highlight tone is not quite as light as I probably would go. Might go a little bit lighter, but it's kind of not really wanting to stick because those first layers are still wet. There we go. Getting a little bit on there. And they can tend to kind of create a like a arced shape. The ones that are coming towards us kind of sometimes will have like a swooping shape, a little bit of cupped shape, but that looks good. All right, so there's our pine tree, and of course the bottom of it is going to be more brown than I did there, so it's not going to be green, it's going to be more brown, so I probably ought to fix that. All right, something like that. Flowering cherry tree. So I've got this liner brush out. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to get a little bit of the, there we go, make kind of a purpley tone to the tree trunk, or blue. Kind of like to have a little bit of color to these, and these are going to be very branching. So I'm going to start at the bottom here and wiggle my brush. So I've got a 2 script liner here, but kind of wiggle it up a little ways and then kind of come out and down. This is kind of a, depending on the kind of cherry tree, this one's kind of like a weeping almost. Some are going to be a little bit more upright, depending, but they've got a lot of, when I was talking about, a straight limb, this one is the opposite of that. This one's going to have a lot of these offshoots, and you can kind of make whatever shape you want out of it. But basically, you're going to have these kind of flat areas of growth with a flowering tree. So, because you're not seeing all the leaves filling in. So it's mainly you're seeing a lot of the trunk, and then you're seeing the start of the leaves and things. I'm going to probably have to let that dry a little bit. We'll see. I'm going to try to work with it here. I'm going to get some of this color, and I'm going to add my magenta to it. So this will be kind of my dark color. I'm going to add a little bit of white. The dark color will kind of tone down the pink so it's not so in your face bright. And I'm going to use my Deerfoot that I got, the 1/4 inch one. I'm going to hold it upside down and use the tip and just create kind of my limbs, or the start of the flowering things there. Go over the top of my tree trunk, and you're going to do these kind of flat areas. That kind of cluster like that. And depending on how much you want to do, you can do a lot or a little bit. You can have some of them kind of connecting. But the basic shape is this kind of flat sections, if that makes sense. And making it dark enough here is really important to kind of give it some weight, because they're such light colors. You kind of have to make your base a little bit dark. And then add my white to it. And tap with my white. I'm going to really kind of load up my brush a little thicker and hold it up this way and tap so that the highlight is on top. And again, I'd probably do 3 layers. I'd probably do this dark mid, then do a mid-tone, and then do this light. But I'm kind of skipping a step and doing the light. Or I kind of did some of the mid-tone in there when I was doing it a little bit. So, and then, depending on how floofy you want your tree to be, you can come back in with a single brush and do individual little petals too in here. There's all kinds of, I've painted flowering cherry trees multiple times, so you can kind of check out those videos if you're interested in more info, but that's kind of the idea behind that one. And then for the weeping willow tree, I'm going to get maybe a little bit of burnt umber or burnt sienna here with the black. There we go. Kind of make it a brown, dark brown. And their tree trunks come up and then curve down. So I'm going to just do kind of 3 main trunks and then do some coming off there. Okay. And then for the branches, I'm going to go back to the pine tree, or the brush that I used for the pine tree, the fan brush. And I'm going to pick up some of this color. They kind of have this olivey tone, kind of similar to this here, and I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. So just kind of tap the little strings of lines. And when they get to the top, they kind of curve a little bit. So on the top, they're kind of gonna go above the limb and curve back down. So there'll be, those ones are a little bit trickier to do with the fan brush, but you can still get it. So just kind of using that corner of the brush to kind of bring those up and around and then straight down. And just go ahead and go right on top. A lot of times this part's not even visible because there's so much filling in here in the middle. Okay, and I'm just kind of playing with it to make the dimensions interesting, and then add some highlights to it, the lighter color, just wherever the light would be hitting it, up on top, usually coming down. The inside of the tree is generally going to be a little bit darker, but you're going to have some highlights coming, some of the branches coming out straight at us too, so make sure that you're doing some kind of in this middle area that are looking like they're coming at us. All right, that's that one. I might go a little bit darker with some of these in the middle part here. I feel like it's a little flat looking right there, but you get the idea. And I just did one of these in a recent video this spring, so if you want to check that out. And then our last one is kind of the most common that you'll see usually. It's kind of the oak tree. It's going to come up kind of pretty much straight right at first. It kind of widens out at the base as opposed to the pine tree that sort of stays straight to the base. And it does get a little bit wider, but not much, you know. The first little bit of it is kind of straight, and the oak tree is gonna kind of really have a good foot on it to hold it up. So a lot of times it'll have these big roots coming out like this, which you don't see on the pine tree. Makes the pine trees very prone to blowing over in storms. So they have shallow roots. The oak trees will come out way out with their roots like this. Keep them flat in the front here, even though they're coming out at us. You're not going to see them come down too much. Kind of maybe do a couple little V's, and that's good. And then do them kind of out to the sides, coming out like that. Right, then come up, and then somewhere in here you're going to want to start to split it and kind of come out and then go straight. So the oak trees have kind of a rounded shape to them. Depending on the kind of hardwood, some of them will have kind of a pear shape. You know, some trees, like our maple trees in the front yard, have kind of a more of a rounded top shape. You can look at, you know, different pictures of different trees and see what they do, but you mainly want to make sure that when you're doing these branches and things, and especially if the branches are going to be visible, some of them are going to be covered up, but that I should have mentioned it with the cherry tree here, that you want to make sure that as it goes down into the trunk that it narrows. It widens out at the trunk and narrows as it goes out the branch. So you don't want a branch to do this, where it has a pinch point here. You want to make sure that branch stays the same thickness all the way down, and then gets thicker as it touches down into the trunk. And then it should narrow as it goes out away. And it should narrow to a very thin, so that's still a little too narrow. I kind of messed that up because I was trying to prove a point, but I normally wouldn't have made it that thick right there. Mm-hmm. But you get the idea. And then usually there's like a little bit of a widening just where it touches the branch or where it branches off. There's like a little thickening right there where it branches off. Okay, so we got that, and then the oak trees tend to kind of come down with their branches too. All right, so that's good enough. That'll give us a base. I'm going to go ahead and use this one here. And let's go ahead and use the medium, or the yellow, phthalo green yellow shade. I'm going to add a little sap green to it. I added a little bit of black. I just wanted a little bit darker. And then I'm going to tap in. And similar to that one, only we're really going to fill it in now. And I don't have my lower branches here, but it's going to grow out like this, where it kind of creates this round shape like that. And then I'm going to grab some white, a little bit of yellow, and just kind of pick some spots to do my highlights. Very similar to what we did in today's thing, where, kind of figure out where the light is coming out at us, and mainly like on top here, just kind of pick some little boughs to highlight there. And then you can always go back over and add more highlights to your trees after the fact, after it's or add some more branches out and that kind of thing. Sometimes I'll do this and then I'll I'll cover up some branches and then come back in and carefully put the branches back in. So the branches just help me. I like to paint them in first because it helps me kind of have a general idea of where to put my foliage kind of thing. And then there we go. So that color is all wrong, but you get the idea.
It's showing a good example.
And then I'm going to get some white here and just kind of go over and create some little texture in my tree trunk. And again, I can go in here and now, you know, kind of know, okay, there's some stuff out here. Maybe I need to branch out to this tree trunk, you know, that comes off here, and kind of add them in on top, or have them kind of peeking through some of the foliage that you've got going on. It kind of helps kind of create that look. But all right, so there we go. 4 different kinds of trees. Hope that helped. There we go. There's all 4. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I can get them all on there.
Can't zoom out too much. I'm going off edge of the
Okay,
table.
there we go. There we go. There's all 4. All right. Well, hope that helped, guys. And thanks for hanging out and watching our video tonight with us. Appreciate it, as always. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will be back next Tuesday
With another free video.
another free video for you guys. Hope you'll join us for that. And we'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.